Welcome to The Funniest Thing.
Yes.
Where each week we share stories about how stepping out boldly always leads to better than expected outcomes.
Yes, sir.
I'm Darrell.
And I'm Ed.
And we're broadcasting live from CHOBO Studios in beautiful Van Nuys, California.
Yes, sir.
And you know what I realized on the way here?
What?
I can't drive 55!
That's right. Today's episode is called I Can't Drive 55 with Tom Thorpe. Turn the great energy of your mind upon ideas of plenty and you will have plenty. Regardless of what the people around you are doing and saying. Oh, that's right. You can have plenty regardless of what the people around you are doing and saying. That is so true. Learning that is an amazing lesson. We must be quick to release the thoughts of worry as they indicate that our attention has drifted away from God or from the good, from all the good that's trying to happen. On this episode, Darrell and Ed encourage listeners to break out of their box by letting go of limiting ideas and embracing a life of ever-increasing good. And during the second segment, high-flying Unity minister Tom Thorpe opens our minds to greater good with today's daily word, creativity. And this reminds me to let our listeners know, Unity Online Radio is not going to be on the air for much longer. Maybe a week after this comes out.
Yeah.
And the good news is, Funniest Thing with Darrell and Ed will continue
to broadcast.
Those of you listening on podcast platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever, Google Podcasts, wherever you're listening to podcasts, it will just continue business as usual. The episodes will be there. Those of you listening on Unity Online Radio, it's real simple. Pretty much every smartphone has a podcast app, but if not, you can use Spotify.
Or you could just simply use your Google search and just search Funniest Thing with Darrell and Ed. Hit search. And right there on the search screen, you'll see several platforms, or, you'll see Apple Podcasts.
Yeah.
You'll see Google Podcasts. And on any one of those right there from that page, that search page, you just pick an episode, press, and it plays.
That's right. So you're going to continue to receive new episodes of Funniest Thing with Darrell and Ed. We love doing it. That's not going to stop. If you're on Unity Online Radio and you think it's scary to find the podcast, ask any 12-year-old. They'll help you find it. Ask a family member. Don't be embarrassed. Once you get it going, it's easy because it'll actually appear on your phone or device every week. You won't even have to worry about it. It'll be there.
And it'll still be free.
Yeah, we have a Patreon account to support us going forward as well. Patreon.com/funniest thing. If you go to patreon.com and search for Funniest Thing with Darrell and Ed, you can find us there.
It's also a one-click button on our darrellanded.com website.
Yeah. Actually, we're also going to have it. You can go to darrellanded.com if you want to find out how to continue listening to the show, right?
Yes.
So we'll make it easy for you there as well. We already got some contributors to the Patreon, which is really appreciated.
Yeah, we're going to thank them coming up shortly.
And the reason why I thought it was cool to bring that up now is because these breaths go fantastic with what we had to do. Because no matter what happens, you can bring that up. Well, no matter what happens in your life, if you learn to embrace it affirmatively, affirm that it's good and exciting, we remain receptive to the good that's trying to happen, and it can happen in the most unexpected ways, and often in the most unexpected ways. What do you got?
I am safe. It's only change.
Are you going to take us on a hayride?
I'm going to do a mini hayride, folks.
Mini hayride.
Because I actually have, we didn't think we were going to get to these, but what Ed just brought up is a perfect time to bring these up. These are little affirmations from Louise Hay.
Right.
And that go perfect with what you just shared. And these are great affirmations for any change you're going through. And here's a fun thing you can try. Often when I see the word, I have strength, God grant me strength, or I have the strength, it always implies that the problem is really big For some reason, that word in prayer kind of like...
Oh, yeah. It also implies that it's like more effort is the thing. More like physical strain or some sort of efforting than that way is going to get me through it.
Exactly. But since I enjoy that the Bible makes it clear that joy is the strength of the Lord. Right. Anytime I see strength in a prayer, like... Right. God grant me the strength. I go, God grant me the joy.
Yeah.
And man, it really takes the weight off my shoulders.
Yes, so God grant me the joy.
So I'm going to read these 2 affirmations that you can use when you're going through change. One of them I keep in my mind is, I am safe. It's only change. Yeah. And we're going to follow it up with, I have the strength, but we're going to say, I have the joy to remain calm in the face of change. Because when I say I have the joy to remain calm in the face of change, it opens me up to the possibility that, as Joel Osteen has said, this ain't don't look at this as a setback.
That's right.
Look at this as a setup from God to something better.
That's right.
So then the other affirmation is a great one too. I am in the process of making positive changes in all areas of my life. And that's what Ed and I are looking at this change as.
Yes.
We just heard this Monday. We're recording this on Saturday. And we went from hearing that all the episodes will be deleted from the platform, all platforms.
Right.
To our friend saying, wait a minute, I already looked into it.
Yep.
And we're going to keep things as they are. Nothing will get lost. Your fans will continue to listen wherever they've been listening without a hitch. And we're going to continue to move forward, but just not with Unity Online Radio.
And this is what happens when you treat everyone as a link in the golden chain of your good. Like when you treat everyone with kindness. Jeff Comfort and Darrell and I have become good friends over the years, not just collaborators with this podcast, but actually, people who love each other and appreciate each other. And so he came forward like within minutes of us hearing about the change and let us know all that great information. It's like we're not kind to people so that they can do things for us, but when we create these loving, kind relationships, it's just natural for people to step forward at the right moment. And it's so funny, Stephen Tom Thorpe, excuse me, as his stage name, as everyone knows him. He just sent us a text because our other friend, Kirk Chelson, who's in Germany.
Yes.
He's
actually in Lodz, Poland right now, teaching at the film school there. He's a professor there. So right now he's in Poland.
So Stephen got a really cool postcard, funny on the one side, and then a spiritual uplift on the other, which is something Darrell's gotten us all in the habit of doing. But the quote from Butterworth that says, begin each day not hoping for luck, but affirming this is a wonderful day, and I am a magnet for only the good in it.
Yes.
So that way, anything that happens,
oh my God,
we can continue to say this, right?
I can't believe that came.
There's another,
That's
exactly.
the perfect segue to our breaths.
They're probably around the height of Butterworth's fame, or maybe in the early days, there was another guru, also in New York.
That's right. I think he was revered even more than Reverend Ike.
I would say so. He was definitely a man of larger stature.
Yes.
Yeah, he went by Fat Albert.
Yes.
And we're going to take from his wisdom today for our breaths.
Yes, we are.
These just came hot off the press, so let's take a breath to clear our mind. Hey, hey, hey. My good is on the way.
Hey, hey, hey. My good is on the way. Hey, hey, hey.
My good is on the way.
Oh, man.
All right.
Now I feel much better already.
I was going to say, this is the thing about these principles. If we can train ourselves, we're not actually imprisoned that we have to react anyway to anything that happens. We did that, and that social pressure in our brain that says, "Oh, I'd look bad if I didn't." Like that's not going to get you anywhere anyway. So you may as well ditch that. But if I realize that I can choose, something arrives on my doorstep. Sure, you deal with that initial like
jolt, the initial jolt,
like you said. But then breathe, and then for no reason at all, like our guest Matt Pazzarelli said, just do something outlandish, like cock your head back and say, "Hey, my good is on the way."
Yeah.
No matter what it is, just be. We're liberating ourselves from just reacting to conditions. I mean, and that's what a lot of this stuff is about. There's that book by some fella who was in the Holocaust, and it was off quoted. What's that fella's name?
Oh, I know his name.
I mean, he was
my goodness, I know, and then he became goodness gracious.
If it comes back to you, let us know. But I mean, the idea was that like in between what happens and how we react, there's this space where we can choose to respond how we want to, and by choosing to respond with love and appreciation, regardless. Like this guy, when they gave him a bowl of dirty warm water with like a fish head in it, he would say thank you. Like for his sake, he did that, and he ended up surviving this incredibly horrific experience and being liberated in a way by it, and then going on to bless many other people as a result. And if we're thinking, oh, my situation's so hard, just think about like this stuff works. This stuff, a lot of it was born, like you often talk about, the unity leaders. They went through a lot of different things. The Depression.
Well, first of all, it started because the wife, a woman, had tuberculosis and was getting desperate for anything to help.
Right.
And someone said, why don't you suggested, why don't you try affirmative prayer? And she's like, okay, well, I might as well. I've tried everything else, and it got results.
Yeah, she started going to these talks, just like the kind that you can go to now, just like listening to this podcast. Yes. And then one of those talks, the affirmation, I do not inherit sickness as a child of God, or something like that.
Yes, I'm a child of God, and I do not inherit sickness.
Like, and that really clicked, and it wasn't like an instant healing, but that was like this major turning point. Hope. And then over the next years or whatever it was, she did physically recover as well. Because when we change what's going on within our mind, and that's what I Can't Drive 55 is about. Why don't you tell a little bit about why that title we used it also?
Well, one last thing about which the woman we're mentioning is actually Myrtle Fillmore, who her and her husband Charles Fillmore were the founders of Unity. I mean, it wasn't even supposed to be they weren't really thinking we're going to start a movement or anything. They just were so blown away that how this way of using prayer or living the principles that, because originally it was considered first century Christianity. That's what they were calling it.
Right.
Because it was basing it on the idea that in the first century of Jesus' teaching, people actually applied what he was teaching rather than just talked about what he was teaching.
Right.
And they were getting the results he was getting. And now they're saying, well, shoot, let's go back to that. So the key to this whole thing is, and it is for all of us, is wherever there's hope, recovery follows. Wherever there's hope, the one thing that changes, like I'm only just one thought away from being happy, then the limits start to dissolve. Once my mind gets hopeful, the limits start to dissolve.
Yeah, and I just want to point out that the kind of hope we're talking about is when you get this awareness of a greater possibility.
Yes,
and
that's
the feeling
within
shifts.
Yes.
This is not just some like surface level word, hope. Oh, I have hope, but inside you're all. It's like through these practices, like the morning routine we often recommend, which is inspired reading.
Yes.
If you want to read what we read, go to darrellanded.com. There's a reading list. You can order those books. We don't make money off it, but you read some books that remind you of the truth, a greater truth than maybe your mind is grasping in that moment. Then meditate, where you actually make this simple but profound connection with this inner limitless reality, and then affirm the truth from that place. Use your voice to affirm what you want this day to be, what you know this day could be, while you're in that inspired space.
Yes.
And it really does open the way for the imprisoned splendor that's talked about. Because I love that imprisoned splendor. It means we're the ones. If we're not getting the results we want on some level, we're the ones holding it in, and it's a joyful discovery to let this stuff out.
So you wanted the history of I
can't drive 55. Yeah.
I actually lived through this time.
Because originally Darrell texted me, and that's what I love about the show, and it's so good to collaborate with someone like Darrell, and we collaborate having two voices, whether we're speaking at Unity churches or whatever we're doing, because it's Darrell and I have learned to look for the thing that makes us laugh with joy, or and we go with that, not necessarily the rational, this is the smart thing to do, or right? It's what is the thing that gives us the boost? And so Darrell originally told me the show was going to be called Money, Money, Money.
Because I kept hearing that song, Money, Money, Money.
Right. So then
it's a rich man's world.
I think the Thursday rolled around, and the original guest we wanted to have, that we invited, didn't get back to us, and then Tom Thorpe, who's actually going to be on the show, and it's perfect as Unity Online Radio is coming to a close that we come back to Tom Thorpe, who was the person on Unity Online Radio who really did inspire a lot of our show. So he'll be in the second.
He actually inspired the way this show is formatted.
Yeah, so he came in my mind. Then at some point, Darrell sends me, here's the description, and it's called I Can't Drive 55 with Tom Thorpe. So I was like, perfect, and but let everyone know why you said that.
Yeah, in the early to mid 70s, there was a oil embargo. It was similar to what's going on now, So all of a sudden, prices started skyrocketing, and there was all this stress over oil and OPEC.
Right.
So the powers, the political powers decided, well, we've figured out that if you drive 55, your gas will last longer.
Oh,
as long as you don't go over.
Okay.
So they set all highway speed limits to 55. Now, before that, highway speed limits were, 65, like they are now again.
I didn't know. Yes, okay. I did not know that.
So they reduced everything to 55.
Right.
And everyone just felt like they were because you know what it's like driving on a highway after you've been doing
you're having to go 20 miles an hour less.
Now you're
what are we, crawling?
Drive on a highway 55 now, it feels like what's going on? I'm walking.
Right. Right.
So I think, then soon after that, just shortly after that, Sammy Hagar wrote a song.
Right.
Which said it all. I can't drive 55.
Right.
Because it feels so constricting. And the theory and the reason we titled this, because this constricting thought, although that one was imposed from the outside, all of our limits really are imposed from within.
Well, the ones this is the thing, even if we grabbed it from outside or took it in from outside, where it really matters is the ones that we have accepted within ourselves. That's correct. I like that. So we're going to get through a few readings here. A Deep Breath of Life by Alan Cohen on March 26th. We have 2 Cohen readings, so you're going to go 25th after this. But this was today's reading when we on the day of recording.
I don't know how you found that corn in there, because that one, for some reason, sometimes Ed will read a reading, because we read a lot of the same books in the morning. And Ed will read something and not find anything. And I'll go, wow, that was a great... And then we'll be like, wow, you did find it.
No, it's so true.
And then this one that Ed's going to read from this morning, I went, But then he pulls this out of there. I'm like, wow, it's like pulling a rabbit out of a hat.
I know. Well, this is a classic Cohen reading. We talk about this a lot, the tushy cold.
Oh, I know. God.
For some reason, this guy, his mom told him you can't flush the toilet while you're seated on it or he'd get a tushy cold.
And he believed that all the way into his 30s.
Into his 30s.
He finally decided to
flush the toilet.
Well, still seated.
I'm going to roll the dice.
And he survived.
All right. He got that. That's called a deep breath of life. So anyway, at the end of the... Oh my God! Maybe that's why he named it. Maybe that's why he called the book "A Deep Breath of Life." So anyway, at the end of this reading, he says, "If you have the courage to question what you have always accepted, you may discover that you have been living out many false beliefs. From your heart and your own experience, what do you really know to be true? Yeah. Meditate on this question. Dare to live the answers you discover, and you will find unprecedented healing and freedom. It says, I release all past beliefs and march forward in the light of my own wisdom. And I'll just say, I think I was on my way here today. I realized, thanks to Darrell and these teachers and my own practicing.
Yeah,
I'm finally in a place where it's like I'm not looking for outside people to tell me what I can believe, because there was a time where I had so much anxiety, and I had a lot of thoughts that were like, I'm not going to make it. I don't want to make it because I can't be myself. It was so painful. And because of these things and because of just practicing again and again, I realized that this is really about life. It's life and death. Paying attention to who you are and expressing the truth of your being is real. Your body responds to it. Your finances respond to it. Your relationships respond to it. So now that I'm firmly in the driver's seat of my own life, and of course the captain is on the bridge because I have security in knowing that I'm living in this God universe.
Yes.
Now I feel like I'm a little kid again, and now I have the tools and money in the bank, so I can. If I want 2 bags of chips when I'm at the grocery store, I can get that too. So let's hear what the other Cohen read.
Yeah, this is actually from it's the last paragraph from the day before. If you have this book, it's March 25th.
Yes.
And if you're having trouble grasping the idea of the word faith whenever you see it, because a lot of us grew up where that word was more of a noun than a verb, and less active in our minds because it was just a static word. The definition I like is joyful expectancy. Mm-hmm. Even if you read the Hebrews 11:1, which is at the beginning of this, it says faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Well, let's try it with the secular definition. Joyful expectancy is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen.
Yeah.
So it might help you.
Joyful expectancy.
It might give you the power, the oomph that the word faith has been missing. It was for me for many years.
Yeah.
So here we go. Real faith is acting as if your good is on its way even before you have evidence it is so. Mm-hmm. Jesus told us to give thanks for the answers to our prayers before we see the results. Faith is like a muscle. The more you use it, meaning joyful expectancy is like a muscle.
Right.
The more you use it, the stronger it becomes and the more power you have to bring your good into visibility. Proclaim your good as if you already have it, even before you see it, and you will see it. And,
yes.
Mike Dugan helped me years ago with 2 things. One, where he made it clear that, people aren't happy because they're rich.
Right.
They're rich because they're happy. Meaning, as long as I do not consent to those negative concerns, worries, doubts, envy, jealousy, any of those unloving, disempowering ideas, and if they come into my mind, I do not consent, let them go, and bring my mind back to happiness, to thoughts of love, kindness, joy, expectancy.
Right.
Well, then, my material well-being will always follow. I don't have to make it happen. And the other thing he said, one time I was worrying about money and my future. 2 things. I got to say these because these are very helpful to me to this day. One of them was, because I had to think about this morning.
Right.
If you start thinking, oh my God, it looks like there's going to be lack ahead on the road. Like you're gonna you think your job is at risk or whatever it is. It could be real or fancied. It doesn't matter.
Right.
Mike brought it back to, he goes, do you have enough for everything in the bank right now for everything you need for today?
Right.
Do you have enough in the bank for the food you need today? Whatever it is, your expenses just for today.
Right.
And I went, yeah, I got more than enough for today. He goes, great. He goes, hang on to that feeling. And the other one was when I was worrying again, he gave me another. He goes, Darrell, How would it feel if you knew you won the $1 million lottery today? How would you feel about that? Because I could feel it when he said that. I go, oh man, I'd feel great. Like I wouldn't have a worry in the world financially.
Right,
He goes,
right.
Well, hang on to that.
Yeah.
And that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Because that good feeling, not only is it more productive and healthy, even though it's, that's foolish. No, it's not foolish. It's much more healthy and productive and puts me in a higher vibration to be willing to proceed positively,
right?
Make positive decisions.
Yeah.
Than does, oh no, the ship's sinking.
Yeah.
We're in bad.
In fact, find something exciting for you.
Yes.
I encourage you to just take a few minutes during your days and live in that feeling. We don't have time for any more readings right now, Darrell. We're going to go to the break, but
that's right.
Visualize, feel it, and make it something fun for you, whether it's an amount you want to have in your bank account or whatever it is, and just see what happens, because it really has transformed my experience for the better. But you do it and you let it go. You don't hold on to it. You just let it go. You want to turn that timer off? It's about to go off. Coming up next, today's guest, high-flying Unity minister Tom Thorpe, opens our mind to greater good with today's daily word, which is creativity. So thank you for listening to Funniest Thing with Darrell and Ed.
I can't drive 55.
That's right.
You made it to the second segment of Funniest Thing with Darrell and Ed.
Right.
And Ed, you got some great readings to kick off.
All right. This is from Prosperity Now, another great Unity book. It says, Mary Catherine McDougall says, we can affirm all that the Father has is mine. This is a thrilling truth. Just like we said before the break, it's thrilling truth to realize what that means. Our enthusiasm about our good grows with our blessing and appreciating everything we have. It is all from God. It is all given to us, his children, because he loves us and wants us to have all kinds of good things. And if you want to just think about life, that life loves us. Life wants us to have good things. And think about that concept, because we have to replace our old limiting concept with a new concept. And concept is like the word conceive, give birth to. We're giving birth to something new here. All that he has is available to us now without delay. When we know this, we know also that this is true for all people everywhere who are seeking the kingdom as we are. God's lavish abundance is sufficient for everyone. No one has to do without. And then the affirmation is, nothing is too good to be true for me. Nothing is too good to happen to me and for me. Nothing is too good to last for me. Thank you, Father, that this is so. Thank you for lasting good.
And all these things we're sharing are really creative ways to use our mind in a healthy way.
Yeah.
And one of the ways in regards to financially, to bring financial increase and a sense of material well-being into your mind is a great technique, a creative way to do that, from the book The Power by Rhonda Byrne. If you have this book, it's on page 160. And I love this exercise, and I do this exercise, and I would love for you to give it a try, even if you just do it when you think about it. You don't have to make it a mandatory thing, but you go, I remember what they said on Funniest Thing with Darrell and Ed. I'm going to try that right now when I leave the house or when I leave this store or when I get out of the car and walk through the parking lot. Here it is. And you don't have to be struggling with money to do this. If you are, but I'm going to read what she wrote. If you are struggling with money, in order to feel really good about money, you can send thoughts of abundance of money to the people whom you pass on the street during the day. Mm-hmm. Look at each of their faces and imagine giving them plenty of money, and imagine their joy. Feel it and move on to the next person. It's a simple thing to do, but if you really feel it, it will change how you feel about money, and it will change the circumstances of money in your life. And I know this is true. This is definitely a good feeling amplifier.
Yes, it is. Man, this is setting off a lot of delightful thoughts in my head. First one is, let's thank our listeners. Thank you for tuning in. Like we said, if you want to continue to listen to Funniest Thing with Darrell and Ed, once Unity Online Radio goes off the air officially, you can easily find us. You can go to darrellanded.com to find us. You can Google us. You'll find our podcast. You can go to any podcast app, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere basically you listen to podcasts, you'll find us. If you're already listening to us on a podcast app, nothing's going to change.
Yes.
One thing did change is we started a patreon.com /funniest thing account. And so that if you want to contribute to the funniest thing ministry, if you will, the funniest thing podcast, it's easy to sign up, 5, 10, 25, however much you want to be on a monthly basis, contribute to the show.
Or a one-time. You could do a one-time donation as well.
Right, but we made it easy because, I really feel like this is what the original Unity movement was, which I meant to mention at the top of the show, which is just these principles work. We want to share these principles. That's the only reason we use it. We love sharing it because it feels so good to let that come through us, and we are continuing to do that.
Well, we're also excited that it really works in our lives.
And divine circulation, exactly, is a big part of that. So you can be part of that through the patreon.com /funniest thing, or go to patreon.com and search for Funniest Thing with Darrell and Ed, and you can become a monthly contributor or a one-time contributor. 3 people have already jumped on board: Kat Hurst, Shannon Cave, and Angela Mann.
Thank you. These are our very first Patreon contributors.
And you got to understand, for us, these are signs of land because we're stepping out in a new direction boldly. We started on Unity Online Radio, and now the time has come for us to because we are ministers. We're New Thought ministers. We're not Unity ministers. We didn't go through the schools at Unity, but so now it's time for us to just continue on our way. And so when we saw these 3 names come through, we're like, wow, it's actually happening. And so thank you so much, because that feeling is really what this is all about. It's just exciting. So thank you to Kat and Shannon and Angela. We really appreciate you. Again, that's patreon.com /funniest thing. You can still mail us things at our P.O. Box. We love going in there and getting things out of our P.O. Box. It's Funniest Thing, P.O. Box 1312, Culver City, California, 90232. You can go to our website, darrellanded.com. Everything we do is there. We want to thank CHOBO Studios that's where we've been recording.
Yes.
And if you want to watch the YouTube videos, you can go to the YouTube channel for Funniest Thing with Darrell and Ed, or go to the Funniest Thing fan page on Facebook. We post them there. We've been doing it on Fridays when the actual episode comes out. So, but it's fun, and we appreciate CHOBO Studios and Indy Fawcett. If you go to chobostudios.com, you can connect with them. It is, it's been lovely for us. And we also want to thank our continued collaborator, the chief engineer who basically built this Unity Online Radio. And not basically, he really did build Unity Online Radio. He's been our engineer since the beginning. We're going to continue to work with him as well.
Yes, as we go forward, even without Unity Online Radio.
He's already been a godsend, as we mentioned earlier. He just out of the goodness of his heart and the connection that we've created with, and just who he is, he's really already got us seeing the light ahead, seeing the road ahead. So thank you. His name's Jeff Comfort, and each week
he takes us
right into the comfort zone. Yeah. We'll give a quick shout out. Excuse me, Jeff. We'll give a quick shout out to the prayer line, aka Silent Unity, 800-NOW-PRAY, 800-669-7729. They have an app, the letter U, the word pray. It's a free app. That's really the heart and soul of Unity as well, is Silent Unity. They've been praying for 125 years, probably 130 years. Tom could tell us that in a moment. Part of the ministry is also Daily Word. It's a daily reader. It comes out every 2 months. Darrell's got an article in this current issue.
I'm excited because if you subscribe, you'll actually get a free picture of me.
Suitable for framing.
They knew better than to make it an 8x10. They made it the size of a postage stamp, so it doesn't scare you.
Plus, they darkened it a little, so it looks kind of like you're looking through a screen door.
Yeah, there I am.
Perfect.
So, and the article's called, which we talk about a lot, God's Ambassador of Love, and that's for the April month. It's in this current issue, the March-April 2022 Daily Word.
And today on the show, we have a Unity minister. He is an ambassador of God's love. His show Discovering Eric Butterworth was a huge inspiration for our show. We've had him on the show many times. We listened to his voice as medicine for our own journey many times. Yep. So let's see if we can bring in our good friend, Unity Minister, the Reverend Tom Thorpe. How are you, sir?
I am well, and you guys sound like you're well also.
Hey, thank you. We appreciate you. So we always like to ask at the beginning of the segment if you've had any ideas bubbling up since you've been in the green room at CHOBO Studios listening in. Is there anything you want to share right off the bat here?
You know, that's the funniest thing, Darrell and Ed, because whenever I listen to the two of you, it's kind of like, remember Jiffy Pop? I guess that's still around.
Yeah,
Jiffy Pop.
Well, the bag just sort of sits there until the microwaves get it going real good, and then it begins to explode. Well, that's what it's like with me when I'm listening to you. The ideas just start to pop, and next thing you know, I'm having to make notes of them or whatever. And you know, I had a couple of really good ideas as I was listening to you now. But the important thing is that you keep doing what you're doing, because it blesses people. And the people that it blesses bless other people. So some people will be blessed by your program who've never even heard of it.
Wow. And that's true for everyone out there who's practicing these principles. That's something that we can all think about, because it's like the Jiffy Pop. Once one kernel starts popping, start influencing other kernels. All the other kernels start to get popping as well.
Yep, and you know, there's always some unpopped kernels left in the bottom of the bag unless you set the microwave exactly right.
Right.
But you don't want to let that ruin your popcorn experience, right? You just have to focus on what we have accomplished, and it's a good thing. You mentioned You Pray. Could I take just about 30 seconds to talk about You Pray?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, You Pray is having problems. If you have an Android device, You Pray doesn't work anymore. But the good news is that you can go to unity.org and leave a prayer request online. That's even going to work on a smartphone. So you can still do what you've always done. It's just doing it a different way, kind of like Unity Online Radio, you know, just doing it a different way. So I wanted to make sure I mentioned that. I've always thought You Pray was a very cool name and a very cool app, but we still have ways to get electronic prayer requests.
Fantastic. Would you like to read the daily word that
I would be happy to. Great. I would be happy to. I live a creative life. I once believed I needed to be blessed with artistic or musical talent to live creatively. Now I realize there are unlimited ways to be creative, and creativity is at the very heart of spiritual living. I build my life through my thoughts and feelings. I use my imagination to envision my good and use faith to believe that good is on its way to me. I expand my ideas of what may be possible and find answers where there seem to be none. I masterfully use my spiritual gifts of will and wisdom to live in new and infinite ways. Just as a chef creates a delicious meal by choosing the best ingredients and cooking skillfully, I create my life by training my thoughts and choosing my actions to make all things work together for good. And the scripture is from Philippians chapter 2. Let the same mind be in you that was in Christ Jesus. And again, I live a creative life, and the daily word is creativity.
Wow. It's so nice to have Tom Thorpe read us the daily word.
I know.
You know, at the beginning of this segment, a new idea was born in me, and I'm not even sure, like, you know how these things, like you're talking about the Jiffy Pops started popping in my head, and I was just thinking about this concept of the virgin birth and like all of that, and it never really sat too well with me, and I never really looked into the metaphysical meaning of it, but I realized, like, when I meditate and I clear my mind and it becomes clean again, you know, like it becomes open, like the virgin, you know, like it, then this idea, this Christ concept starts, I conceive, right? That's like I said, the concept is the same as conceive. I begin to conceive this new idea, this Christ which is within me, this which is me. And it takes me to these practices like meditation and inspired reading to clear my mind so that it lets go of everything that's not like who I really am. And that, to me, all of a sudden I started to go, okay, that's a new idea of what virgin means, for like not some of these like societal connotations and this and that, but just means like virgin snow, right? Like untouched.
Yes.
When I clear my mind, then I start to, the Christ is born within my mind, and it comes from within me. That's why it's just me and God, right? Like all of a sudden
it's funny because
it all started to have a whole different idea for me.
Yeah, because it says a light is born, a savior. It's always a higher idea, one that has solution and optimism.
Wow, yes.
It really is.
Wow, yes.
Yeah. And, you know, the Apostle Paul gives us a series of steps for doing it that it's a really good bridge for New Thought people to share with people from more conservative traditions. And he wrote it in the first book of the Bible. It's pretty short. I could read it to you if you want.
Please do. This is awesome.
All right. It's from Paul's first letter to the Thessalonians, and it's in chapter 5, and we begin at verse 15. See that none of you repays evil for evil, but always seek to do good to one another and to all. Rejoice always. Pray without ceasing. Give thanks in all circumstances, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for you. And that's it. I always used to tell my ministerial students, if you're ever called upon to give a sermon on a moment's notice, just pull out that text and you could talk for at least an hour. And that's if you're not having a good flow of ideas. Right. But it's really simple steps. First thing is get rid of the idea of revenge. And affirm good for all people, and then rejoice always, which got me thinking about the laughing clubs. Did you know that May 10th is International World Laughter Day? That's what they call it. Pray without ceasing, and if you believe, as I do, that every thought is a prayer, you can't help praying without ceasing as long as you're thinking. And the question is, what is your prayer like? What are you praying about? Are you affirming negativity? Right. And then give thanks not for all circumstances, but in all circumstances.
Yes.
So I don't give thanks that I have cancer, but I give thanks if I have cancer that I'm able to give thanks, you know?
Right.
It's the same thing you guys are doing all the time, with just a different structure, a different vocabulary. That's all.
That is wonderful. We're going to have to write that down so we can remember. Can you tell us that verse in chapter?
It's First Thessalonians chapter 5, beginning at verse 15.
That is so cool. That part. It's funny you talked about the laughter because we've had in the past we had our friend the laughing yogi Siri Gopal on, and he really gave us some great tools. Such that prove to me that I can, in all circumstances, I can choose to laugh and give thanks regardless. It's almost like lifting this. Darrell always says this, it's legal. Like remembering, wait, it's my mind. I can choose what I think in this situation. I can choose to insert some different thoughts at the very least into that. And, you know, he gave us this tool. Can. He gave us the tool of if you're feeling down or you're feeling constricted and you're like, even if you're in a grocery store, put your phone to your ear, pretend you're on a call and someone's telling you the funniest thing you've ever heard, like, and it's just releasing the stress. I know Lowell Fillmore talks about that. Like the laughter is like our soul just releasing the stress of holding on to all these limiting beliefs. And as we let go, then we'll get an influx of new energy. And that's the key to all this. It's not being disrespectful. It's opening ourselves up to the influx of who we truly are so that we can it's actually more respectful, because from that perspective, we're able to give love, and we have more to give to others, and we're more productive, and we're more solution oriented.
Well, we create, and that's when we're really being, living life as a savior,
right?
Because we're creating a ripple effect of healing and happiness and joy. I just can't understand how I fell under the spell of that old belief. I don't know if I got it from misinformed Catholic teachers or just adults that didn't know any better, but wherever I got it from, it was the idea of, you shouldn't be too happy. Keep a damper on it. If you really want to help others, you kind of have to, let them know that things aren't going that well, but you understand.
Right.
And I'm going, oh.
Right.
And that's why when my first mentor was telling me the opposite, I was almost like, really? That's legal? Like my brain.
Right. I hear you.
But it is. It's not only legal, it's illegal to be doing it the way I had been doing it, because it was creating nothing but pain within myself.
Right.
And then my behavior followed.
Right.
That I don't think was conducive to bringing joy and happiness and inspiration to those around me.
Right.
Well, at the beginning of your program, you do a lot of laughing when you're first getting together. It's contagious. It really is. And there's no reason why you can't bring that energy to even the most what are considered negative situations in life. It's never disrespectful unless you do it disrespectful.
That's right.
Yeah.
Tom Thorpe, I got something here I think you're going to appreciate. And
this is a good way this goes right along with what we're saying.
Yes.
And I wanted to just throw out there this concept that I got from Lowell Fillmore, which is, we got to be careful we're not getting even with people. One is like through revenge, because what it's like vibrationally, we're bringing our vibration down to them. So we're getting even in that right way. But also when someone's going through something difficult, this is the difference between, like, I guess, empathy and sympathy. Like, sympathy is becoming a sympathetic vibration. If we vibrate too much in the same frequency as them, we both get stuck. We can listen empathetically without going in there and thinking it's happening to us and vibrating on the same. So because we need to be a channel for the solution.
Light,
So why don't you read a couple of those things, because we do have to get going here.
And I want to just make it clear that when I said that earlier about Catholicism, the misinformed teachers, because the current Pope Francis, I don't know if you've heard some of the things he's been saying.
Yeah.
I don't hear everything he says, but some of the things are pretty congruent to the new thought ideas.
He probably he's got to have unity connections, I would imagine.
The whole idea of fasting when I was a kid was so hell bent on what you ate, and staying away from. It's things that brought you joy.
Yes.
And then you can't do anything that brings you joy.
That's what it was really about. Yeah. It's like fasting from joy. Yikes.
Well, actually, Pope Francis kicked the doors off that. I'm going to read this. I don't know if you saw this.
Give us a few of them, because we don't have much time.
I'm just going to do a few.
Yeah.
So he kicks it off. Do you want to fast this Lent? And he goes, try these. Fast from hurting words and say kind words. Fast from sadness and be filled with gratitude. Fast from anger and be filled with patience. Fast from pessimism and be filled with hope. And he goes on in this way of basically change your thinking.
Right. He said, didn't Jesus say something to the effect of not what goes into your mouth or what comes out of your mouth?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I like this one. Yeah. Fast from bitterness, fill your hearts with joy.
Nice.
Yeah. I'll bet the Pope has a secret daily word subscription.
Yes,
Hallelujah.
sir. I would not be surprised at all.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
In other words, we don't consider fasting about what we're eating. We consider it to be about what's eating us.
Ooh,
and we want to let go of that. Yeah.
Yes.
Boom. Tom Thorpe just dunked on us, as the kids would say. Tom, we got to wrap up the show. You got a few words you want to say before we say goodbye? Although we do want you to hang on the lines, because we do have a few things we want you to hear. But
okay, sure. The one thing I want to say is please keep on keeping on. Every beacon of light is something that's lifting up the world, and we can watch the news and say, oh, how terrible, or we can watch the news and bless everybody and recognize the truth of their being, even if they don't.
Thank you. That's awesome. Amen. So we have a quick story here. Hang on the line. Late one night when Tom Thorpe was in the ministry school at Unity, after a long night at the Fillmore Tavern, he found himself on an incredible adventure.
Wow.
Yeah, he was on horseback.
Whoa.
Riding as fast as that horse could go. He was chasing a friend of his who was also on horseback, friend of his from the ministry school. Can you imagine that? After what seemed like forever, Tom yelled to his friend,
I've never ridden a horse before and don't know what to do to make him stop. What should we do?
Suddenly another voice came out of the shadows and shouted,
Push the button. You're on the merry-go-round and the carnival's closed.
Oh my God. Here comes Enzo, the FedEx feline, with a little mail.
What'd the cat drag
Christina Robom from Utah said, I listened to an old episode with Richard Barrage and it was perfect. Ignore the jerks. This stuff works. Thank you, she said. Thank you. Kat Hurst, said, I plan to become a sustaining member. Thank you for all you do. I cannot wait to see what great things come of this.
Thank you so much. She was actually our very first Patreon contributor.
She even went to one of your Zoom workshops recently, didn't she? Did. Thank you, Kat. We really appreciate you.
Petula Clark.
Wow, what are you doing here?
Oh, boys, I just thought maybe you'd like to hear the original lyrics to my song. I sound a little bit like Donald Trump, although I'm from England.
When you're alone and life is making you lonely, you can always go uptown. When you've got worries, all the noise and the hurry seems to help, I know. Uptown, just listen to the music of the traffic in the city. Linger on the sidewalk where the neon signs are pretty. How can you lose?
Visit DarrellandEd.com to find easy links to everything we do. And thank you for being
Tom
a part
Thorpe,
of
we love
Funniest Thing with Darrell and Ed.
Wait, how's it go?
The lights are so much brighter there.
You can forget all your troubles, forget all your cares, and go uptown. Things will be great when you're uptown. No finer place for sure. Uptown. Everything's waiting for you.
Uptown. Uptown.